Good morning and welcome to today's class as we proceed on our auto layout journey. So, I'm of the belief that most of you, or some of you, or probably if I'm hopeful, all of you have gone through our last class and have practiced and tried getting your hands dirty with what auto layout is all about or what it entails. So, if you have practiced or taken out time to try out auto layout on your own, let us know in the comment section and we'll be glad to celebrate your efforts. Also, if you're having any challenges, let me know and we can address that before we move forward. With that being said, I'll be sharing my Figma screen right now. Oh, in our last class, we designed an auto layout card showing you how to make it responsive and how to make it elastic if I'm trying to use a layman's language in this case. So currently nobody is in class and I wish someone was here to let me know the challenges they faced during the course of trying it out on their own so I can address it and help give clarity to them and shed more light to it. But since nobody is here, and hopefully I'm of the belief that you must have tried this out. So, all the best with that. There are a lot of things you can do with auto layout, and I have shown you how to make use of the cards. I've showed you how to make use of auto layout in the cards. I've showed you how to make use of it in the button. Now, moving forward, we have what we call components. You can use components on buttons, you can use components on cards. For example, let's start with buttons so that you don't get confused. Now, I want to create a new button just to ensure that your brain is refreshed. And so I'm going to create a new button called Home. So whenever you visit a website, you always see the home page, the About Us page, the Contact Us page, and the rest of it. So we need to create a button called Home. So right now, this is not a button yet. This is just a test. So I want to convert this thing to an auto layout. What do I do? Shift A. So now this is an auto layout button, but currently it doesn't have a fill. So I'll give it a fill. And so we're going with this. And then for the white text, this is not really good. Okay. So we could work with this for now. Then, now that we have this button, it's still not complete. The this padding, the space between the element and the edge of the container needs to be enhanced. Then we have something good. Let me do 32. Then a corner radius of 8. And let me do 12. So we have something like this. This is not bad. Now we need to, this is already an auto layout, but we need to make it a component. So what does making something a component, what does it mean? It means that I want it to change in terms of appearance or state when I hover around it or when I click on it. But right now, before I proceed on this, I want us to test out our first prototype. I know, look at my screen. I know you have seen prototype here. You've been seeing it and you might be curious, what does prototype mean? So before we proceed, let me just show you what prototype is in another different form. So I'm going to create a frame. So I'm going to create a frame. I've created a frame and I want to have slowly. I'm going to have rectangles inside this frame. Sorry, square inside these frames. And I want images inside. I want images inside of my square. So I'm going to duplicate it multiple so that when I run my Unsplash plugins, I will not have to go multiple times. So let me just so I'm going to select these rectangles and give it a spacing of 8. Sorry, Ctrl Z of 8. And let me make it 16. So that's or 24. Okay. So now you can see that I have my squares. So what I'll be doing is to right click, run my Unsplash plugin. So I'll be selecting food depending on what you want to test it out with. You're not being constrained, so feel free to explore with what you would like. So right now, you can see that I have that. But one thing you should know about Unsplash is that in Unsplash, you can select the orientation of the image you want. Currently, you can see that this image is on landscape. This one is on portrait kind of. We have rectangle. This one is a perfect square. So depending on what you want, you can just come here, orientation, and select the kind of orientation you want. So since I created a perfect square, I want images that are already in square format so that when I click on it, they will just fit perfectly into my square, so you can see what just happened. But when you do it on a rectangle, when you set a landscape kind of image, some of the elements in the image might not show. So now you have been acquainted with that particular feature in Unsplash. So what I'm doing basically is selecting each shape and then inserting images into it. So the last but not the least, we'll go with this. Okay, let's go with this. The cake. And now, okay, I want you to have a very clear background so that none of you get confused with what I'm doing. Okay, I think that that is great. We could work with that. So, one thing about coming to Unsplash is that I get carried away. There's so many beautiful pictures there. So just 16, a a real feel of being something real. just like we did on the coffee app. I'll come to the coffee app, then take the tap on it. I usually like doing to my frames is to give them a friendly feel by giving it a corner radius of 20 to make it feel more friendly. So the sharp edges makes it look scares me basically. So now that I have this, uh remember look at another thing. Why I do all these things to show you how diverse how the this element or design can diversify based on what you are creating. So right now I'm trying to do something new in real time. So for we have designed during the course of our coffee app. So basically why I'm doing this is just to give it in a real app what this will look like. So control V. So currently, you can't see other elements because on the other coffee app, the background color is brown, the text is white. That means you're having a light color on a dark background. But here now, you can't see this because you're having a light color on a light background. It's like using white chalk to write on a white wall. You won't see anything. So the only thing we can do now is to come to the iPhone frame and give it a dark color for you to be able to see its elements. Or another way you could navigate it if you don't want it this way is another way to move forward is to select it and then convert the white elements to a dark color. So, and as you know, we have our what's it called? This card as a glassmorphism card. And it being a glassmorphism card means that it is white. So being on a white background, you can't see a glassmorphism card or element or shape will not be visible on a white background because it is white against white. So it will not work. The only thing you can do here now is to, depending on the style, it all boils down to the feel which you want your design to take. So the only thing you can do is either you give it a stroke to make it pop or you change the color that comes with it. So the only thing you can do is to play with the colors. So you can see, then you can increase the opacity as you see fit. Then we'll have something to work with. And also, sorry, Control Z. Also, for this rectangle, you are you can reduce the weight. Like currently the weight is 1, you can reduce it to 0.5 or zero point 0.1 depending on the style. And also you can do this thing with the color, play around. So it all boils down to the style or the design or the app. So now it's time for why I did this. The purpose of adding all these things I added is just to I want this. I didn't just want to do this prototype on an empty frame. It will look like child's play. I wanted to show you how it can be infused in a real app. So now that I have this now, I have this. So I've select this rectangle. I know it's too big, so let me reduce it a little. But the purpose is to put it inside of a frame. So currently, these shapes, these images, they are existing on their own. You can see it. rectangle 16, rectangle 15. So they have to be a unit. You either put it in a group, or you put it in a frame, or you put it in an auto layout. But right now, I don't want to put it in an auto layout. I want to put it in a frame. There are two ways I can do this. If I right click, sorry, if I select, I can do Control G. Now I have that this element is a group, and I can change it from group to a frame. So instead of these rectangles to be inside of a group, they are now inside of a frame. Control Z, Control Z. So right now they are nothing. They are not. Undone. I've undone what I did, and right now they are just existing independently the way they were existing earlier. So right now I want to just convert them to like I want to group them into a frame instead of going from putting it in a group and then putting it in a frame. The way to do is to right click and say frame selection, which also has a shortcut of Ctrl Alt G. You can do group selection, which is Ctrl plus G. But I want to go straight to converting it to a frame. So right now they are in a frame. Remember, I said frame, not auto layout. So you have the option to also take it back to a group or as you seem fit. But right now, what I want to do only works on a frame. Prototype only works on a frame. Prototype only works on a frame. So to move forward, now that I have it in a frame, it's time to practice what I want to do. So I'm going to move this frame inside this iPhone 16 Pro Max. So I have it in. So you might have seen things like this in Facebook in your Facebook app. For example, the place where they say let me show you a real life sample of what we're about to do. So on Facebook, on Facebook, this place, this if this scroll where you scroll and see. So this is what we're about to achieve. This scroll effect. Yes. So we are going to use. We're also going to achieve this also. We're also going to do this one to show you how it works on Facebook. So moving forward, coming back to this, why did I say it is perfectly placed? It needs to be placed in a way that Control Z. So when you are placing this kind of element, for example, you don't want to do something like this. Way the user will know that there is something that is coming after this particular card. So that is why this particular placement is very good, because as a user, I'm seeing that okay, after this card, I'm expected to scroll to see other cards that are coming after this. So this is a very good placement. So now it is time for me to test out my prototype to know if it is actually working. So I'll select this iPhone 16 Pro Max and click prototype. Expected me to come here and activate my prototype. But for if you select a particular frame and you want it to run and display as a prototype, it's this you click this play button. But if you want to set the settings, that's where you come to prototype. We are still coming back to that. So I have clicked on the play button and it is loading in another tab. So it is loading and preparing to display, even though the images are taking time to come along. So I have this prototype. It's all about creating a dummy version of what you intend to develop to see what it looks like in real life before you put in money and effort in developing it and making it become real. So when you test something out in prototype, and when you test something out in prototype and it is not good, it gives you the opportunity to rework it and make it better. Because in prototype, you're not wasting any, you're not spending money, you're not doing much. But when you've already gone to develop the app and put it in Play Store and it's everywhere and something is wrong with it, you have to come back, and by that time you've spent a lot of money. So prototype gives you the liberty and the opportunity to test out what that thing will look like and make the corrections right now rather than putting in effort and money into it, and at the end of the day it's for nothing. So currently I'm having this, but following this, but look, it is not, it is not moving, it is not moving. No matter how I scroll, it doesn't move. That is because I haven't done the prototype setting yet. So coming back to my Figma file, coming back to this other one. And one other thing you should know about this particular prototype is that for this scrollable prototype is that the element inside of that particular frame guiding those multiple elements must overflow from that frame. So what does this mean? Come along, just pay attention. Now, remember that we talked about clip content earlier. So currently, bigger frame is clip holding this element. So if I unclip it, I can see, okay, all these things are still inside this mummy element. Remember also that these rectangles are inside of another frame inside this mummy frame. So now for this kind of scrollable prototype to work, these rectangles inside of this small frame have to overflow. So how does it overflow? It overflows by holding down my control key and reducing. Can you see the one reducing the length of the frame? Yes, these rectangles are still inside that frame. But what I have done now is just like auto layout would have been the best thing to use to explain this to you in terms of absolute position. Or, but what I did now is to reduce the length, even though these rectangles are still inside this frame. Figma gives us the liberty to reduce the length of this frame. But that doesn't mean that this other element outside is still not inside it. They are inside it. The only thing is that we are creating the illusion that the length of the frame stops in this particular section that we have assigned to it. So now also, this small frame now, it also has its clip content, which right now is unclipped. So if I clip it back, you can see that it's still there. Those elements are still there. They are still in the position that they are meant to be. If you unclip it, you see it. If you clip it back, you see it. So right now, we want prototype to work on this in terms of scrolling when we scroll. And I told you that for this kind of prototype to work on this, the elements inside this frame 64 have to overflow. And that is why we have this. Yes, even though this frame is containing, is accommodating all these people, they are still overflowing from a particular frame. I'm going to come to prototype to set the behavior of this particular frame prototype. So I am saying, it is saying, do you want it to scroll with parents, or do you want it to stay in a fixed position, or do you want it to stay at the top? So what this option means is that scroll with parents means that if I'm scrolling this iPhone 16 Pro Max frame, if I'm scrolling it up, do I want this particular frame 64 to scroll with it? Like I should flip it up when I, just like in Facebook, if you don't want, you can scroll up, just that scroll up effect that you can also do on WhatsApp and other applications. So that is what it is asking. Do you want this element, this particular frame 64, to scroll with iPhone 6, every other thing in iPhone 16 Pro Max when it is being scrolled up? If that's what you want, good and fine. Fixed fixed place means if I'm scrolling everything in this iPhone 16, if I'm scrolling it up, this particular frame 64 will stay where it is. It will not move. Then stick to the top means that if I'm scrolling up everything that is inside this iPhone 16 Pro Max, when this frame 64 gets to the top of iPhone 16 Pro Max, let it hang there. It will not move again. So that's what it entails. But right now, we don't want, uh, we usually use this stick at the top, mostly in website designs and also even fixed place. There'll be scenarios that will play out and you'll be like, well, yeah, this is the best option to use here. So don't overthink it. But right now, we're going to go with scroll with parents. And that is that. Then that is for positioning. Then for overflow, because I told you for this particular prototype to work on this frame, it has to overflow. So right now it is on no scrolling. That is why when I tried it out in the play button display for prototype, it was not scrolling because this by default it was set to no scrolling. And then we have horizontal. Horizontal meaning that I want it to scroll this way. So that is the one I'm going for. Then also vertical. I can use vertical when remember that the one that is currently selected, and I told you about when something is selected. The one that is currently selected is frame 64. So if I set iPhone 16 Pro Max to scroll vertical, that means if I'm scrolling up, you should be scrolling vertical. But right now, the one we are targeting is frame 64. So I want it to scroll horizontal. So I'm going to set it to scroll horizontal. Now, watch something. If this thing, sorry, let me come back here. If this, I told you that prototype length of this frame has gone to accommodate everything in it, has gone to accommodate every element in it. You can see that when it comes to overflow, it is telling you that this is an error. For scrolling to work on this frame, the content needs to be bigger than the frame, meaning that the length of the frame has to go back to how it was earlier. So I'm doing this to show you that for overflow to work, you have to reduce the length of the frame accommodating it. If it is equal, you'll be getting this error. So to correct what we did, I will hold down my control key and reduce the length of this frame. And if you come back to prototype, you can see that it is okay now. You have you have fulfilled its rules and regulation and it is happy. So right now, everything is set. We'll have to go back to frame. I'll clip content. I'll also clip content. So now that iPhone 16 Pro Max is selected, I will click play prototype. So voila, as you can see, it is ready. So can you see where the position of my mouse is? This place was not set to scroll for any reason. But when I scroll down and come here, can you see what is happening? Because this part was set to scroll. And as you can see, I am scrolling. I am also scrolling. So you can do this. Step two, your first prototype. So I did this to show you a very basic prototype setting that you can use. And in fact, clap for yourself at this very moment because you've just done your first prototype in Figma. So this is an example of a prototype in Figma. And we have many other amazing variations of this particular prototype. There are ones that once you start scrolling, it's it will be going around. This could be used in this format, and this can also be used in this format. Let me create another one. So I don't like leaving the edge of my frame sharp. It looks it looks weird. So you could so right now we have this. Then for this other one, mm, let's change. Let's go for technology and see what we have there. So we have this man on VR headset. Then for this other one, let's go for food. Let's go for animal. We've had enough of food content. Okay. So right now we have this. So I'm going to select them and then tidy up the spacings between them. I have 24. And then put them in a frame, which you said is Control Alt G. Control Alt G will give you a frame. Then I'll drag it. So we are working with this and I'm just trying to adjust it to make it look cleaner and friendly. So we have this and let's run the prototype. So the best solution is to reduce this the length of the frame. And you can see that though I'm not seeing the other elements inside this frame because of clip content. But right now, this particular second frame 65 does not have its clip content clipped. But because this iPhone 16 Pro Max has its clip content, it is the mother element. So the mother setting is what will have power over the child setting. So when I unclip the clip content for iPhone 16 Pro Max, that's when you see these other ones. Click on 64 and also clip it. If I unclip the one for iPhone 16, you can see that even though iPhone 16 Pro Max clip content is released, the one for frame 64 is still clipped. And as you can see, that is that. And then here now, I'll come to prototype to set the prototype setting. And just as you can see, we set it to horizontal. It is not showing error because you have fulfilled the conditioning for this kind of prototype to work. And that is that. So right now, let's see how it plays out. It is scrolling. But now there is this other type of prototype, which is the next step to taking things professional. So to do that, I'm going to use this other one. So I'm going to bring this out and then release the clip content, or rather even ungroup it from a frame. Let me ungroup it from a frame. So I'm seeing the ungroup effect. So in fact, I've released this thing from a frame. So the next type of prototype is the prototype that you select each individual image. Let me call it image down, even though that it started as a rectangle and I imputed images inside that rectangle. So what I need to do now, let me just increase the spacings between these things so that when I start, you won't get too much confused. So right now, they are not inside a frame, they are not inside a group, they are just existing like normal individuals inside this Figma layout. So right now, if I click on this, it will show me the properties of this particular one. Then I'll go to prototype. So once I have gone to prototype, once I go to prototype, you can see that it's all, sorry, scratch that. Let me do that again. So you can see that nothing is happening. Why? Because I said earlier that prototype works on what? On a frame. If it is not a frame, your prototype setting will never be activated. So now watch something else. Let's do this. Let's select all of this and then make it a frame. Then now we have a frame. Then let's duplicate this again. So since we have four elements in each frame selection, that means we're going to have this thing by times four. So now that we have this, now watch what will happen now. If I click on this and come to prototype, can you see what is happening now? This node point will start showing. But earlier, when I clicked on one individual image, these things were not showing. It is showing now, even though I'm clicking one individual element inside of a frame because that individual element is inside of a frame. Now watch, let me do it somewhere else. Let me bring out this single image. So this single image now, I'm hovering around it. This single image now, I'm hovering. But you can't see that plus like node like dot that was there. But if I come here now, can you see it? It is in this one. It is in this one. Why is it working? It is working now because it is inside of a frame. But this ones, it is not showing. That is why I said prototype only works on a frame. So To do this next thing that we have planned to do, let me bring this one out. So now that we have this inside of a frame, what I want this thing, I want this image to change on their own without me always scrolling. So what do I need to do? I'll tap on the first one. So if I tap on the first one, this node point will be activated. So I want it to head to this one. So now, once I connect this dot, this spring, or this rubber band or elastic or whatever term you want to call it in your own language, once I connect it from one of the element to the next of the another element, this interaction pops up in Figma. Figma will ask me, what is the interaction behavior that I want for it to take place when this changes to this? So right now, trigger is, what do I want? Like, is it when I tap on the image, the next one should come? Or is it when I drag the image, the next one should come? Or is it when I hover my mouse around this first image, it should make the second image come up? Or is it when I keypad? Like, these are all the settings under interaction. So right now, let's start with tap. That means when I tap that first image, the next image should come. When I tap the next image, the next image should come. So right now, I've set trigger to tap. Now the action should, what should the action be? So I want it, we'll come to scroll later. Right now, I want it to navigate, I want it to change to the next one. So change, navigate is what I will use. There are situations where you start seeing change to how it works. But right now, what we have activated is um, navigate to. Change to, think it's more effective for frame to frame when you are doing frame to frame prototype. So right now, I want it to, when I tap on this particular one, it should change to this one immediately. So I have set trigger, I have set action. The next thing is to set destination. So the destination for it, what's the name of this triangle? Is called rectangle 21. So you can see that by default, see what is happening here, not happen at the same time. So I have to delete the one that is false. Tap here to continue my distance. So the destination is to, I said navigate to the, why are you changing? So I'm finding it difficult locating this because we have multiple 20, because okay, if I didn't know what, let me just delete other things to have, so I can have a clear layer of what I'm working with. So let me just quickly delete all these things that I did here. So zooming in now, I'm zooming in to see what I'm working with clearly. Let me also increase the spacings between them. And most times this Figma thing can just be annoying. So let me expand the spacing so that enough space will be. Then when I'm done, I think my Figma is even hanging. I think my system is hanging. Control Z. So let me do 120 to ensure that there's enough space in between this. So now I'm clicking on this and coming back to prototype. If I drag to this, so as you can see, it has already connected because the connection is clear now. So on tab, I don't want it to be scroll to, I want it to be navigate to. Okay, okay, now I understand what is happening. So when if you're watching what is happening, when let's do it again. I want this to navigate to this. I want it to convert to this. But now it is asking, the action is to scroll to. It can only work like that when you command it to scroll to this. But once I ask it to navigate to, it deactivates immediately because it should be frame to frame. It should work frame to frame. But okay, now let's continue with the scroll to and see how it behaves. So as you can see, and also the next thing is animation, how you want it to behave as it is scrolling to. So I didn't set it for this one. So let me come back to this one. If you want to come back to anyone, just tap on it. If you tap on it, it will behave. Then you can set it. So coming to this one now, I'm having this, and for I want it to animate, I want it to add drama when it is changing, scrolling to that. So that is what animate is all about. So if you click animate, if you want to just change, just walk in without any drama, that's when you use instant. Then if you want it to have drama with it as it is changing, that is where you use animate. So for now, let's just put it as instant and then try out and see what instant gives us before we start taking the next step to adding drama to it. So this other one, you also drag it to the next, and then they are all on instant. So let's put it inside the mother frame and test it out and see how it behaves. One thing you should be ready to do in this whole design thing is be ready to experiment and be ready to test things out and just get ready to have fun. So now that I've done this, I can now reduce the spacings between these to 24. Why is this thing entering? So now just copy this, Control C, come to this other place and Control Shift R. I told you how to replace. So it is showing because iPhone 16 Pro Max clip is not clipped, and this other one also is not clipped. So let me clip them and then clip this. Let me delete this other one. Then let's test it out to see how it behaves. Okay, so let's see how it behaves. Okay, it is not working. Let me try reducing, applying this other effect to it. click on this tab, it's asking the offset, like the positioning to which you want this to occur. And currently we have it as 00. This is more advanced prototyping at the moment. But what I will do now is I will proceed to the basic, the reason where I was heading to before I tried to explain this for you. And then on Friday, we are going to explore this kind of prototype more. But right now, I'm going to do the basic prototype for you guys. While on Friday, which is our next class, we'll explore this more. So why I had ventured into this was to show you about this simple button, how it can change states. And that means talking about prototype. And before now, I've not said anything about prototype. And that was what led me to discuss this particular prototype, which is just the first basic kind of prototype. And when I did it, I felt like teaching you guys about these vertical ones also. And when it comes to these vertical ones, although you can still do the same, yeah, I think you can still apply the same thing to shorter versions. But one thing about these vertical versions is that there are some scrollings you start doing that when you get to the end, it automatically brings you back to the first frame or the first picture without you needing to scroll backwards. So that was what I'm trying to achieve in this particular one. But as you can see, it's not working on image to image, it has to be frame to frame, which I have stated and pointed out in the course of trying this out. So on Friday, we are going to explore more on that. But now that your brain has been introduced to what prototype is all about. Prototype is about animating your design to have a feel of what it will look like when it's being developed. That was why I took you through this process. But I'm glad you understood this particular one. And then on Friday, we will continue with this we'll continue with this version. But now that you have been introduced to prototype, now let's go back to our button where you will understand what I am trying to achieve basically. So we've all seen websites designs. So let me click on frame. So instead of phone this time around, we're designing for what's it called? Desktop, which is website. So we're having this. So I'm sure you have seen website designs that homepage, homepage, about us page, and the rest of it. So let's do our layman kind of thing. So what a layman would do, or what you would even do at this your current stage of learning, is to come here. Let me reduce this size. So you have home, you have about us, you have buy from us, you have contact us. So these are just we've converted these buttons to auto layout. So just pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm trying to show you real life display of what these things can look like. So let's say we'll have homepage. I'll just go into this auto layout and change the name to our product. Then we have this to be okay. I like what is happening here right now. So just pay attention. Let me do Control Z so that you see a challenge that I'm having here and how to correct it. In fact, I'm enjoying this our class. It's bringing every common mistakes that anybody can make to light. So now watch this. This is inside an auto layout. This is inside an auto layout. This is inside an auto layout. this is an inside and outer layout. And I'm by sure I believe that you know how we did this. We just wrote a text and did Shift A, put it inside outer layout, and then we just added padding to make it look better. So right now, these are individual auto layouts being housed by this element called by this frame called desktop. So let's just change the color. So I want to change the color of this background, this desktop, but I want to do something tricky. Now, let me come to this rectangle. So I'll select rectangle. This rectangle now is selected. I'll right click. If I right click, I will say copy the properties of this rectangle. So when I copy the properties of this rectangle, I'll come back to this my desktop frame. I'll click on my desktop frame. If I click on my desktop frame, I will right click and go to copy slash paste as. I will say paste properties. So now I've copied the properties of that rectangle and used it to design this my desktop instead of going to fill and start manipulating the colors again. I don't have that time. I just want to jump into action, and that is what I have achieved. So that is another way you can copy the color of a particular shape and apply it to another shape without wasting much time. So now that you can see what I'm doing clearly, you can see that these are just auto layouts existing on their own. Now, this particular auto layout, I want to change the name. I want to change the name to our product. So I hope you can see what is happening now. Even though this thing, this particular one, this particular our product, you can see that it is not filling the container. That is just one of the problem. Another problem is that it is overlapping with this other auto layout. So how do I solve this? First of all, I will select all these auto layouts and put them inside another auto layout so that if they increase, just because currently we have 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I add other ones, maybe I decide to have 5 buttons or 6 buttons, they will expand and make space for the new ones. So now that I've selected them, I'll do Shift A. So Shift A now, you can see that the only problem is just that I've not set the spacings for them. And yeah, okay, the spacings for them are like, has been set by default. But when it comes to this other product, the problem here is that thing we discussed the other day, which is about filling the container. So if I select this one now, let's check what the setting is. This particular auto layout, which is frame 64, you can see that it is on fixed width. So can you see what happens when I put it to hug? Can you see what happens when I put it to fill? So these are the things you have to pay attention to when designing your in your journey as a designer. So let me just use scale tools to scale these things down. So now what I have achieved by putting all this inside an auto layout is, for example, now I need to add another button, Control D. My system is hanging. So Control D. So you can also see what is happening, how there are some misbehaviors inside this inside this auto layout. So right now I'm having Wait, something is wrong. Control Z, Control Z. Okay, so I have this, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and I select on this, Control D to duplicate. Okay, what is happening is that, can you see where my, wait, let me check my parent auto layout. Okay, so what was happening is that the parent auto layout was set to fixed width. So what it was what the effect was that the more I control, the more I was creating other buttons, the more it's being jam packed, because the width of the mother auto layout was set to fixed. So what I need to do is to set this mother auto layout to hug, so that it will accommodate any new element that I introduce into it. So Control D, sorry, Control Z. Then I'll select inside and do Control D. So you can see what is happening. And then coming to this particular one, you can see that the width is also set to fixed. So what I need to do to even avoid all these things, what I need to do to avoid all these things is to, first of all, select all these ones and even delete them, so that I can save myself all the stress. What I need to do is come to this first one. Now I'll set it to hug content. So it will hug whatever I put inside of it. Then I'll control copy that one, come here, Control Shift R, and also have home. So if even if I duplicate this home times 4 now, let's try and put new elements inside it. Our product. Can you see how it's written? So you have to be mindful of your auto layout setting. Is this set to fist, or is this set to hog, or is this set to fill container? So now, why I would have done this thing individually for other ones, but it's waste of time. It's better to delete them, do for one, duplicate it, and then change the text. Then here I'm having um about us. Then we have contact us. Then we are having register. So I'm sure you might have seen this kind of things on websites. So I'm sure you must have seen this kind of things on a website. So what component, when you say create, when I ask you to create component for this, what I mean is create components that when I hover on this on my website, maybe the color can change, the text can change, the, like, there are different ways you can design it using the Figma, using the design principles like contrast, hierarchy, and the rest of them. There are some websites that if you hover around, immediately this thing will not have white background again. Instead, it will have a stroke that has different colors. So how is that thing being achieved? That is the purpose of what uh, creating component is all about. So now I'm going to use this as my sample. Control C, come here and paste it. Let me drag it out. It doesn't want to behave itself. So let me just delete other ones so that we don't get confused. So I'll just delete these ones. Let me confirm that my record, my class is still active. Okay, my class is still active. Then coming back, we have this. So how do we create components? Remember that this thing is now an auto layout. Ehen. The purpose of making it an auto layout before making it a component is that in case, so what you can see now is create component, what is Control Alt K, and voila. So whenever you are in Figma and you sneeze, that thing is a component. And what does component mean? Component means that if you've created that thing as a component, no matter anywhere the children of that thing is, or anywhere that thing appears in Figma as a component, if you change anything in it in one particular location, it will affect every other place that thing appears. The change or the effect will take place in every place that thing is. So right now we've created a mother component. So Control Z to undo what we did so that you can follow me properly. So as you can see, we talked about Boolean operation the other day. So look at create component. Once you create component, this is the mother component. And once you've created a component, you see this, it asks you to add variations to that component. So if I click add variation, now I have variations of this component. So I don't know if you have any question at this very point. And also, I would, nobody is currently live in class. It would have been a very good opportunity for me to know people that are lagging behind and people that are understanding what I'm saying. Because just like I said, we are entering a new phase, and I want to ensure that everybody has clarity and is understanding what I'm saying so far. So when you'll be watching this video at your own leisure time and you have any question, please don't forget to drop them in the Discord channel and it will be addressed. Please and please, it is very important that we are all in the same page so that we don't leave anybody behind. You paid for this class and it is your utmost right that you get value from it. So if you have any question, reach out on the Discord channel, and I would also love to see what your Figma file looks like to see how you have been getting your hands dirty so far. So let me know in the Figma, let me know in the Discord channel, and we can address any confusion you might have. So now, what does variation means? And this is the mother frame. This is the different variations in it. So if I add more variants, as you can see, I'm adding more variations, I'm adding more variations. So the number of variations you add is dependent on what you want to achieve. So Control Z. So let me go back to my. So that is that. The let me show you something. Okay, it's all good. So now we've created a component, and this icon shows that this is the original mother component. And when you click on add variant, it tells you that okay, a new child has been added to this thing is not existing on its own, and it's not like it has components inside of it. So now that we have that, and I'm saying that the number of variants you have is dependent on you. So now we're going to start with 3 variants. So I'm going to add another one. Now, this is where the change begins. The change begins when you start changing what it will look like. So if I click on the first one now, I'll go to prototype. So now the prototype we are doing, you see why I had to take you through the journey of understanding what the prototype is all about. So when you come to change to this other one, when I tap, I drag, I hover, I press, and the rest of it. But for now, I want it to hold to change when I hover. So while hovering is to change to this variant 2. And as you can see, which one is variant 2? This one is variant 2. And for now, we are working with instant. So let's leave it as instant. But if you go back to design, if you go to the design, you see that this and this is the same thing. So how do I know when it changes? How do I know when that button has changed? Before you go to your prototype, you have to design these things the way you want it to look like. So let's say that I want, when I hover, the color should change to something like this. And then when I press, I want the color to change to something like this. So now you can see that we have three different states. So whenever you have a variant, the first thing you need to do is to change, you decide the number of variations you want, and then you alter their physical appearance so that when that change start happening, you know which one is currently being activated. So clicking on this, we've already set it to hover. Then this other one, I want when I tap, it should change to this. So to try this out, this has been set. We are done with that for now. So to try out what we have done so far, what we need to do is to bring a child of this component. And how do we do that? When you come to file, we have assets. Under assets, you see all the components that you have created in the process of working in this file titled Figma environment. So you can see that I tapped on created in this file one component. These are other Figma components that other designers and creators have created so far. So it's telling me I should select create the ones created in this file. If I tap on it, I'll see this home. And if I tap here, I'll be able to see that this is home and it has three variants. So I should insert the instance. I can click insert instance, or I'll drag from here and put it here. So right now, let's go back to file. Can you see the difference between this icon and this icon? It tells you that this one is the mother original component, while this one is the child component. So watch out for these icons. Here now, if I change the color of this mother, because this one is the main one now, before you start hovering and start pressing. So if I change the color of this original this thing, can you see what is happening? Whatever you do to the mother will be affected to the children wherever the children are. So Control Z to undo this particular one. Then let me now show you how it runs in the prototype. Now it is time for us to run the prototype on this desktop one. To do is to come to prototype and go to prototype setting and set the prototype setting to none. Either you set it to no device, or you set it to that particular desktop size. Well, I don't want to do that. I'll just go to product. I'll just go to prototype, and now it is being displayed as prototype, as desktop in the prototype. So press Z. If you press Z, your desktop, your screen size with Z like zebra. So as you can see, content responsive. What is it? It's changing, but it's not. So when you press Z, your it helps you see. It helps you resize you're currently displaying. So remember that these ones are not yet components. The only one that is a component that we have is this one. So if I hover, can you see what is happening? I'm just hovering. I'm just hovering. Then when I tap, which is when I press, can you see? On press. So it is reacting based on what settings I have implemented in my Figma design. But these ones that are just normal auto layouts, nothing is happening to them at all. So if you have any question, you know where to contact me. This is what class and how I wish we had people on live currently that would have asked some questions that would have shedded more light or clarity. I don't know, depends on your understanding. Maybe their questions might have, would have shed more light in any way you're having uh, doubts or difficulty understanding. But I'm so happy we have gone through today's class and we are now becoming professional designers. So all these things I'm teaching, you will need to bring them along when creating your designs. So I'm explaining them and showing you all the possibilities that are possible in design and in Figma. So when you start creating your own design, it is not left for you to be like, okay, I need to add components. Okay, I need to create scrolling effect. I want it to have this. I want it to react this way. I want it to behave this way. So that is the whole purpose of what we've been doing so far, showing you the possibilities, showing you what is possible, showing you things you can do, showing you how you can do it, showing you the possible errors and challenges you could encounter and how you can solve them. So it is very, very important. And it doesn't take anything from me to teach this class the way other tutors on YouTube would have taught it. But because I've walked this journey also and I've failed and I've made mistake and I've learned and I've met other people and I've seen the kind of mistakes they encounter. That was why I had to start this class by teaching you this design thing as a novice. Then from there, I've been showing you the possible mistakes someone can make, and you're also seeing the mistakes I'm also making, and I'm also taking you along on how to correct them. So be open to failing, be open to learning, but don't be open to giving up. That is what is not acceptable. So I'm so happy we have gone through this journey and look at where we are today. We are taking the step, we're becoming more professional. We are seeing how things are done, we are seeing how things react. So I'm super happy to have gotten to prototype with you guys, and I can't wait to see you guys on Friday. So if you have any questions, let me know through the Discord channel, and I'll be there to answer. And I don't want to be of the belief that most of you have stopped being uh, consistent with this class. I don't want to be stage will be will be something you regret in the future. And I wouldn't want that for you. And I want you to learn, practice what you've learned and from it. I need you to be the boss of your own self. And I can't wait to see you shining on the global platform. So thank you for today's class, and I am super happy. Thank you very much, and I hope to see the live turn up on Friday to be more than zero. I don't want to be having zero students available. So I look forward to seeing you on Friday. If you have any question, I'm still hammering on that. Use the Discord channel, send me a mail, and I will respond to it. Thank you very much and have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week. Bye.